I've been sitting here watching you guys, all these teams and all this expression, this great poetic expression. And it really makes me feel good. You know, I still lecture a lot of colleges, what have you, etc. But this particular group of this humanity here really gets off with me. I mean, gets off with me in the positive sense of where we are possibly headed in terms of evolving a real, true people's human liberation framework between now and into the future. This is what I'm looking for. I was just a young engineer working on the Gemini missile program in early 60s. Early 60s. And I became interested in my African American people's history. Believe it or not, I already knew, before I knew my African American people's history, I already knew. You see the Lakota brothers that came up here a moment ago? I knew their history. I knew about the whole Lakota nation, all the 8 ethnic groups that make them up, etc. Because I had identified with them as a young man. But there I was, doing electromagnetic field black light non-destruct testing on all engine brains with the Gemini missile program. There I was doing this in my little engineering department craft, my high-tech world that I loved. And I read a book by Jomo Kenyatta, Space in Mount Kenya, and found out about a young black man who went to England and got a degree, came to America and got another degree, went back and became involved and significant in organizing his people out from under the yoke of English colonialism over the country and over the people. That blew my mind because I learned something. All the brainwashing I'd got in movies, I realized that Tarzan did not run Africa. I mean, the caricatures that was blown in my head, alongside all the math I knew, all the engineering design stuff I knew, I had no understanding of my African American people's history. And when I got a hold of that, the world began to change. I began to look. I looked up and saw Nelson Mandela on trial. I looked up and went downtown to hear Dr. Martin Luther King speak in 1962. At the Oakland Auditorium, 7,000 people in the auditorium. And he got up there, and normally I didn't go hear preachers anymore. You know, I got tired of preachers. But I want to hear this preacher. And he got to talking about the things we had to do to change things, to end institutionalized racism, to end racist discrimination in this country, economically and otherwise. And he got on the various companies and said, we're going to boycott such and such a company and boycott this companies. Then he got on the bread companies. We're going to boycott Langendorf Bread Company, and we're going to boycott Kilpatrick's Bread Company. Those are 2 local bread companies. And we're going to boycott Wonder Bread Company. We're going to boycott them so consistently and so profoundly, we want to make Wonder Bread wonder with a money ring. Talking about being a young person and getting inspired. I mean, I'm still an engineer, I'm going to work at night, but I'm at Merritt College, and I meet these guys in the Afro-American Association, and I don't know what no Afro-American Association is about. So I asked one guy I haven't seen for 10 years, I said, you're supposed to be a socialist, what's this, some kind of communist stuff? He says, no, Bobby, Afro-American. I said, I never heard the term Afro-American, what do you mean? He says, who are the Sioux? I said, their name is not the Sioux, their name is the Lakota. The word Sioux is a French word, it means cutthroat, and they ain't got nothing to do with the real true culture. And he says, yes, Bobby, I remember you're my brother, and you told me that. What we're talking about here is we have a descendancy, we are a people, we are humanity. We are not derogatory, we're not niggers, we're not negroes, we're not none of that stuff. We are, that's what it is. So I said, oh, so Afro? I said, yes. And I said, wow, I got a hold of it. A year later, I was in an anthropology class, and I'm trying to get this instructor to start using correct social science reference to us. And every time she gets to black folks, she says, Negroid. And then I said, well, why do you keep using that term? I don't like that term. That term is next door to nigger and blah, blah, blah. And so even some of the other black students in the class who weren't conscious Bobby Seale, you always interrupt this class, man. This is an anthropology class and I'm trying to get my degree. I wish you'd stop this Afro-Black talk, blah, 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 blah. And so I argued, no, we got to find correct social science reference to us black folks. So I got Richard Aoki, my Japanese friend on campus. I got Bertram Morrell, my other brother on campus. And then I said, is Huey around here? Get Huey. We got Huey in there. In the next class, and Huey jumps up in the back room, and I'm going to mimic Huey for you. I'd like to say that correct social science reference, black folks in America, I would like to suggest for an anthropological terminology, Africanoid as opposed to Negroid. And I said, that's it. And I jumped up out of the seat, and the instructor said, sit down, Mr. Seale, sit down. She wrote the terminology on the board, Africanoid, underline the syllables. She said, okay, I can go with this. Now, I said, well, wait a minute, I told the instructor. She said, what's the matter? I said, we got to equalize the terminology. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, okay, Africanoid is better, correct social science reference to us as black folks. And then, of course, Asian people of Asian descent, you say Mongoloid. And then, of course, when you get to the white folks from Europe, you say Caucasian this. In other words, I say, if you keep using those terms that way, notice something. All the people of color over here, Mongoloid and Africanoid, we the Noids. We're the Caucasians. So what are you getting at? I say, from now on, let's equalize the terminology. Africanoid, Mongoloid, and Caucasoid. That day in the classroom, I won a hard argument. My point is, this is my early development right around the free speech movement at this time. And what caused, ultimately, me and Huey talked a lot about we need to start another organization after Malcolm X's death. I created the Black History Black group. We got Black History in the curriculum at American College. I shifted that group and changed that name to Citizens Advisory Council. And then I got on the anti-war movement. In other words, too many of us, we looked up. 29% of African Americans, plus Chicano, plus other ethnic people of color, were dying on the front lines of Vietnam. And this country was not recognizing our constitutional democratic civil human rights. This country was not doing that at that time at all. So I said, I would bring a big rally at American College. By this time, Huey, he's in law school in San Francisco. Well, I left a message for him to come by, and he suddenly heard me recite this poem. Uncle Sammy called me for Lucifer, and we brought the house down. 700 students in there, packed in there, and they signed up for the Social Student Advisory Council, 250 strong. So Huey was shocked. You organized all these people? I said, yeah, man, I keep telling you we got to get a new organization since they killed Malcolm X. And so Huey was really enthusiastic. A week later, we're down the street here, this street right here, Telegraph, way down by H near the White Way. It's hordes of brothers and people walking up and down the streets on both sides of the streets, nightlife throughout Telegraph. Huey wants me to recite Uncle Sammy called me full of Lucifer. I don't want to recite Uncle Sammy. I said, Huey's too many people up here at night like this, man. I don't want to recite. No, you got to do that. He's trying to tell one of our other student friends and tell my brother John Seale, man, you got to hear Bobby, man, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, man. I'm telling you this because this leads to the real founding of the Black Panther Party. So I stood out there right by the parking meter. Hordes of people walking by. And it's a poem by a young brother, this is a poem by a young brother named Ronald Stone. I picked it up out of the Liberator magazine, one of my 30-some-odd different periodicals I subscribed to by that time. Liberator magazine was published out of New York at the time. So to recite the first lines of the poem really had no titles. I call it Uncle Sammy poem because the first lines read that way. And just as I opened my mouth, Uncle Sammy called me full of Lucifer. Well, I don't give a good eagle-eyed. And suddenly a big, tall, bushy-headed white guy got up from one of the tables and waded through the crowd with a chair. And a big giant marijuana cigarette in one hand and a chair in another hand. He said, hey, man, I was sitting there, man, and the people got in my way, and I'm getting the vibe. I said, okay, man, I'll stand on the damn chair. I get on the chair, it's a nice crowd, 25, 30 people blocking the sidewalk now.